Some monsters hide under your bed. Some live in your closet. But the most terrifying ones, they walk the streets, blending in.
You're not going to make me out to look bad, are you? It's not a matter of looking bad or looking good. I am concerned with the truth.
There's no thrill like a good kill.
Looking just like everyone else, just another face in the crowd, until it's too late.
People at that time were not hesitant to leave windows open.
That day, Jack Vinkow walks up to his mother's apartment. The window's open and the front door is unlocked.
Night is supposed to be peaceful, a time to rest, a time to feel safe behind locked doors and closed curtains. But in the summer of 1984, for the people of California, night turned into something else entirely. It became a time of dread, when shadows moved where they shouldn't, when strangers watched, waited, hid in the darkness.
Jack proceeds through the front door and saw that the living room had been completely ransacked.
It looked like somebody had gone through and taken property, or at least looking for property.
And at the center of that fear was one man, a man whose crimes were so vile, so disturbing.
Men, women, the elderly, and children were all in the sadistic killer's sights.
Their final hours were at the hands of someone who was laughing as he tortured and raped and killed them.
A serial murderer who broke all the rules.
The suspect has used guns, knives, tire irons.
I knew how vicious and violent he really was.
That even experienced detectives struggled to comprehend them. A man who called himself the Night Stalker.
Hello?
Today, the search for California's Night Stalker continues.
I'm afraid for everybody, elderly, young, everybody.
In the summer of '85, there was a serial killer randomly killing people.
The man Californians are calling the Night Stalker.
They caught my Uncle Richard a mile away from our house.
But to truly understand how Richard Ramirez became the embodiment of evil, you have to go back to where the darkness first began to take root.
Why on earth would you have hurt those people? Why did you kill those people?
I believe in the evil in human nature. This is a wicked world. And in a wicked world, wicked people are born. I'm not going to blame society, my race, or people, or anything.
Before the murders, before the bloodshed, before the world even knew his name.
A serial killer is caught up in a frenzy, and by the time it's over and done with, he'll reflect back on it and wish it had lasted longer.
February 29th, 1960, El Paso, Texas. Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez was born on a cold winter morning in the border town of El Paso, Texas.
El Paso was a town of about 500,000 people, and across the Rio Grande was Ciudad Juarez, which had 1.5 million people, about triple the size of El Paso. It's a heavily Hispanic population.
It was basically a very quiet town, a very quiet place to live.
He was the youngest of 5 children, but his life was far from ordinary, and not in a way anyone would envy. His father, Julian Ramirez, had once served as a police officer in Juarez, Mexico. But behind closed doors, he was a completely different man, a man with a violent temper and fists that spoke louder than words. For young Richard, home wasn't a place of comfort, it was a battlefield. But the real seeds of darkness inside him weren't planted by his father alone. As you'll soon realize, it was someone much closer, someone Richard trusted, who truly shaped him into the monster he would become. His cousin, Miguel Ramirez, or as everyone called him, Mike, wasn't just family to Richard, he was his hero, Mike was a decorated U.S. Army Green Beret, a soldier who had returned from the battlefields of Vietnam. But what Mike brought back with him wasn't just medals or war stories. It was something far darker. Something that would change Richard forever. Late at night, when the rest of the family was asleep, Mike would sit young Richard down and tell him stories that no child should ever hear. Stories of violence, cruelty, and pain. He spoke about what happened to Vietnamese women, how they were tortured, humiliated, killed. But these weren't just words. Mike had the proof. Polaroid photos, graphic, disturbing, showing women tied up, gagged, their eyes wide open, empty, their lifeless bodies lying beside a smiling, proud Mike. For young Richard, these images weren't just scary. They fascinated him. They lit a fire inside him, a dark curiosity that began to grow quietly, dangerously. And then came the moment that changed everything. May 4th, 1973, El Paso, Texas. Richard was just 13 years old when he saw death up close for the first time. That day, his cousin Mike got into an argument with his wife, Jessie, in front of Richard. Without hesitation, Mike pulled out a .38 caliber revolver and shot Jessie in the face. There was blood, screams, and silence. And Richard, he didn't cry, he didn't scream, he just stood there, watching, frozen. They say some moments break a person. For Richard, this moment didn't just break him, it pushed him deeper into the darkness. Mike was arrested, taken away, and once again, Richard was left alone. His home was filled with anger, violence, and silence. At school, he hardly spoke. He became quiet, withdrawn, lost in his own twisted world. Later, his sister Ruth noticed how lost Richard had become and decided to help him. She offered to let him live with her and her husband, Roberto. She thought she was giving him a way out, but what she didn't know was that Roberto had dark secrets of his own. Secrets that would drag Richard even deeper into the shadows. If you're finding this story as unsettling as we are, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we cover the darkest, most shocking true stories, the ones that remind you real monsters do exist. Now, let's get back to the story. At first, living with his sister Ruth felt like an escape. Richard thought maybe this would finally give him peace, away from his violent father, away from the memories of what he had seen. But inside Ruth's house, there was a new kind of darkness waiting for him. Her husband, Roberto, had a hidden life. He wasn't violent like Richard's father. He wasn't a soldier like cousin Mike, but he was dangerous in a different way. Roberto was a peeping Tom. Almost every night, while the neighborhood slept, Roberto would sneak out of the house, creeping through the shadows, spying on women through their bedroom windows, watching them without their knowledge, and soon, Richard was going with him. At first, it was curiosity, but it quickly turned into obsession. The quiet streets, the thrill of not getting caught, the secret, hidden world Roberto had introduced him to. Richard was hooked. But that wasn't all. During this time, Richard began experimenting with drugs, marijuana, LSD, hallucinogens that blurred the line between reality and fantasy. His mind, already filled with darkness, now became even more twisted. And then came Satanism. Richard wasn't just fascinated by evil anymore, he was embracing it. He read about satanic rituals. He talked about living by no rules, doing whatever pleased him, no matter how cruel. By now,
and then ultimately, I think, falls in love with Satanism.
Satan is a stabilizing force in my life. It gives me a reason to be, an excuse to rationalize.
Ramirez clearly was searching for a structured sense of self to give him personal identity.
The influence of both Roberto and cousin Mike had completely changed him. The boy who once wandered cemeteries to escape his troubled home was now ready to bring fear into the lives of others. When Mike was released from prison in 1977, despite having murdered his wife, he quickly became Richard's role model again. Mike showed no regret, no shame, only pride in what he had done. And to Richard, that meant power, control. He wanted that feeling for himself. While other young men dreamed of careers or success, Richard had a different dream. He wanted to be a real-life villain, someone who could take, hurt, and destroy without consequence. And as you'll soon realize, he did just that. It started small. Richard would spy on women, just like Roberto had taught him, but it wasn't enough. The darkness inside him wanted more. Richard soon started committing petty crimes. He would steal from stores, sneak into places he wasn't allowed, all without much planning. But even though these were small crimes, they gave him a taste of what was possible, a feeling of power, of getting away with something, and he wanted more. Eventually, the law caught up with him. Richard was arrested for the first time in 1977, still a teenager.
Number 2, step to the red square in the center of the line. Number 2, in a loud, clear voice, repeat this statement. Shut up, bitch. Shut up, bitch. Number 2, turn to your right and face the door.
And sent to juvenile detention. But when he was released, the time behind bars hadn't changed him. If anything, it made him colder, more dangerous. In 1982, he was arrested again.
Richard Ramirez arrested today after being held by an angry crowd.
Los Angeles police today arrested the man they believe is a so-called Night Stalker.
With a man who may be the Night Stalker in custody, California residents may sleep a little easier.
This time for marijuana possession. But again, it wasn't enough to stop him. Richard had already made up his mind. He didn't want a normal life. He didn't care about school, about family, about right or wrong. What he wanted was control. What he craved was fear. And soon, the streets of California would become his playground. After dropping out of high school, Richard moved to California. At first, he drifted from place to place, living in cheap hotels, taking odd jobs, but none of that satisfied him.
The picture of the newspaper, he looks really scary, you know.
Give me the keys, give me the keys. And then I looked up at his face and I saw his eyes, and then I recognized that he was the one who killed.
It wasn't long before the darkness took over completely. In April of 1984, Richard committed his first known murder, a crime so brutal, so heartless, it shocked even seasoned investigators. He attacked 9-year-old Mei Lung in the basement of a hotel in San Francisco's Tenderloin district. He beat her, stabbed her, and left her lifeless body hanging from a pipe. No one suspected him at the time.
9-year-old Mei Lung was found dead in the basement of her apartment building where she lived in the Tenderloin.
But that murder lit a fire inside him, a hunger that could never be satisfied. From that moment on, Richard Ramirez wasn't just a troubled young man. He was a predator, and the streets of California would never be safe again. Over the next year, he would leave behind a trail of terror that shook the entire state. Homes weren't safe. Locked doors weren't enough. People weren't just scared. They were hunted. And as the body count grew, so did the legend of the man the media would soon call the Night Stalker. But as you'll soon learn, the worst was yet to come. If you want to uncover more terrifying true crime cases like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you never miss a story that might just keep you awake at night. And if you found this case chilling, leave a comment below and tell us which killer we should cover next.